Hampton Roads Academy. I've been here, just finished up, or at the end of this week, we'll have finished up my 4th year here down in Hampton Roads. 10 years before that, I was head of school up in Maine at a place called North Yarmouth Academy. So I used to be head of NYA, and now I'm head of HRA. And I'm really pleased to be here. After 10 years in Maine, we only looked back up there to laugh at the weather and the weather reports. We heated mostly with wood, and there were days, seriously, when our school was going through over $1,000 a day in oil during the winter. There was one week where it got so cold for a week straight that telephone poles started bending and snapping as they contracted in the cold, and the paint fell off the wall on my office on the inside because it came right through the brick. This is a great place to be. And we really love it here. And we landed on our feet. We found really what is quite a fantastic school on a national basis. A little bit about HRA, for those who don't know. HRA was founded in 1959. A couple of about 6 or 8 parents got together, and they went down to the city planner, and they asked the city planner, here's a map of Newport News. Put your finger on where the center of Newport News will be 25 years from now. And he put his finger on a cow pasture up near the airport, I think, in that area. There was nothing there. There's no, Oyster Point Road, and that really went nowhere. It went inland from Oyster Point, and that was about it. If you know where we are now, we border 64. We're right near Williamsburg, or the Patrick Henry Field, and by the mall, and we're surrounded, and we have about 50 acres there right in the center of what is the center of Newport News. We've been very fortunate to have foresighted leadership on our board ever since then, and who really think about the future. When I came here, it was important for me, I think, to get things in line. I tend to plan ahead and look 5 years, 6 years, 7 years ahead. And so in that first year, we instituted or knocked the dust off several plans. We are accredited by, we receive our accreditation through Virginia Association of Independent Schools. We are members of the National Association of Independent Schools. And just for a little background, we are the only independent, non-sectarian pre-K through 12 school on the peninsula. Really the only one between Norfolk Academy and Richmond. We're the only one that fits that bill. We're accredited by the Virginia Association of Independent Schools, and that's an exhaustive process. Along with that part of, in that accreditation process, it's a self-study. It lasts over a year, where you really have to answer the questions of who you are, what you do, why you do it that way, and how you do it that way. And people come in and look at you and give their stamp of approval. Although our real stamp of approval is really from our parents and students on a daily basis. But we have that self-study from the accreditation process. We also did a long-range financial plan. We did a campus master plan, and we did a facilities plan as part of that master plan. And all those things moving in conjunction really is the way that we look forward and plan for the future, and an enrollment plan as well. And we're well on our way. We're at the 4th year of that plan now, and we're moving forward. Each year we update it and push it forward. We were, I'd say, in an enviable position, and again, good leadership and good foresight. When the recession hit, we got hit along with every independent school in the country, really. Top tier schools, Andover, Exeter, even they got hit by that recession. They fed on the 2nd-tier schools, which fed on the 3rd-tier schools, and some of those 3rd-tier schools went out of business. We weathered it fairly well. We had a slight drop in enrollment between 2007 and 2009, and now we've made that back. We've had steady growth over the last 6 years. Over the last 4 years, we've gone from about 560 students. We're right now about 610 in pre-K through 12. Our goal next year will be 620, and then probably 630 and 640 the next 2 years after that. Just growing small, incremental growth. In order to accommodate that, we entered into a campus master plan, and we had a capital campaign 3 years ago now. 3 years ago? Which we ended up building a new wing on the school, and that new wing consists of 7 new state-of-the-art classrooms, 5 new laboratories / classrooms, big ones, each one's about the size of this room. Actually, half of it is laboratory, half of it's classroom, and a new admissions office and a new student commons area. We also built a leadership training course, high ropes course with zip line and things like that. We've redone fields, we've renovated gymnasiums, and we've just been putting a lot of money back into the plant. We completely redid our middle school with new HVAC, and the list goes on. In other words, we're building, and we're continuing to build, and we have plans for the next few years of adding more and enhancing the facilities further. Why? Why are we doing all this? It was interesting when I first moved here, and I was discussing with Paul Tribble at CNU. If you've been down there, you can see a little bit of buildings going on over there over the last few years. And I was talking to Paul Tribble, the president, and I explained what HRA is doing and what my vision for the future was. And he said, well, Peter, you realize that if there wasn't an HRA, we would have to find one. We'd have to found one and make one. And I said, well, I believe that, but why? And he said, because our public schools are better because you're here, because competition's good. The innovation that you do at HRA is possible because you're not bogged down by the bureaucracy. You can take those risks, you can try new things, and you're just that much more flexible and forward-thinking. And he went on to say that, in his opinion, every great secondary school or advanced in secondary education was founded or started in the independent school system. That because we were able to be flexible, and we were the first one to break from students being taught in rows and reciting and being hit with rulers and things like that, and getting much more creative. We talk a lot about 21st century learning skills, and people say, "What the heck's that?" I mean, not new math, I hope. Any of you guys victims of new math?
Yeah.
I certainly was. Yeah, back in the 60s and 70s, it was horrible. That was not an independent school invention. We got away from that. 21st century learning is really, we want our students to be able to communicate effectively. We want them to work collaboratively. We want them to think critically and analytically. And we want them to take risks. We want them to put themselves out there, try new things, new approaches. And any of you guys have been to business school or have heard this phrase, profit is the reward for risk. Same thing with education. You have to try new things. You have to put yourself out. If you're just memorizing, just studying for the test, you're not learning. It's something else. It has been described, and excuse the term, academic bulimia, where you cram for the test, you cram all the things in, and then you regurgitate them on the test, and then you move on and refeed and recram and regurgitate and ad infinitum and ad nauseum. It's not a good thing. So we want our kids to take risks. And those 4 things, the key to that, I believe, is those 4 things. We want our faculty to model the same thing. We want our faculty to communicate effectively, primarily with the students, but also with the parents as partners. We want them to work collaboratively because it's important to do so. We want them to think critically and analytically, and we want them to take risks. So therefore, we want them to really get away from the idea of the SOLs and try to instill their passion for their subjects in the students. We want them to look at new ways to communicate with their students and to get in touch with them and to teach them better and more effectively. To that end, we introduced an iPad program at the school. We did it in a very thoughtful manner, I think. We put iPads in the hands of all the teachers a year ahead of the time. We let them get used to them because we were pretty sure our kids knew how to use those computers better than our faculty did, which, interesting enough, didn't turn out to be the case. But so we introduced that, and then we got a lot of professional development work with our faculty over the space of a year, bringing people from all over the country to work with our faculty on course design and classroom management and all those good things that you can do with an iPad or a computer. Not better, but just differently and more effectively at different times. I'd say, although every student next year from 3rd grade through 12th grade will have an iPad, either an iPad mini or a full-size iPad, they'll use them 30% of the time. It's not going to replace the teacher. It only enhances what the teacher can do. It's a tool put in the hands of both the faculty and the students. So we're pleased with the way that's going. One of the things that it has done is cut down a lot on the cost of textbooks and made better textbooks available, made better resources available for the student. If it does nothing else than that, then we're ahead of the game. But I also think that we know that it gets kids reading more, not less. It gets kids working more collaboratively, not less. A lot of counterintuitive things where you think, oh, everybody with their own device, they're not going to talk with each other. Well, if you've seen kids texting and typing and WeChatting and Facebooking and all those other things, you know that they actually get more connected. Just not perhaps in the right way sometimes. I just wrote a headmaster's letter, just to get off the track a little bit there. I wrote it on legal pad. I wrote it on legal pad in cursive, and I sent it out to our parents with the admonition that I know that the public schools and many other schools across the country have dropped cursive writing. And when I found out and when I realized it, found it out when it crept up on me, it hit me in the face about 6 months ago when I was talking to a wonderful young accounting student from CNU, great young lady, and I handed her a note that I had written, sort of thanking her for her work, and she said, "I can't read this."
Oh.
It was in cursive.
Maybe you should improve your handwriting.
That was my thought initially. No, actually, my handwriting's pretty good. And it's just not taught. It's not taught anymore. And you ask the people why, and they say, well, it'd be more important to teach them typing and things like that. Well, if you extend it, that means a lot of primary source documents won't be able to be read. You will not be able to read the Declaration of Independence in Thomas Jefferson's handwriting.
And the Constitution.
Yeah, and it's going to go so quickly in one generation, because when this young lady who is 23 or 24 has children of her own in 5 to 10 years, it won't make any difference to her. I mean, she won't be advocating for it, and it's going to be in the time of 20 years, 2 generations, it'll be lost. And it'll be relegated to the realm of calligraphy or some other hobby, I think. And I think that's a real shame. We still teach it. And we're sort of dedicated to teaching it now because I put my foot in things. But yes?
Is it okay if I ask you some questions?
Anytime, yes.
How many students are there in a class in middle, grade school, and high school?
All right. School-wide, we average about 13.5. It's that 0.5 kid that's a real problem. It's actually, it depends on the class. In the lower school, class size is based on about 14 per class. There are some classes that are 15. Middle school, again, we're basing it about 15 per class. And so there's no class larger than 18 anywhere in the school. Up in the upper school, you'll have some classes that, some of the core classes will creep up to 16, 17. But then again, some of the advanced classes will drop down to 5 or 6. So average-wise, you can expect about 12 to 13 to 14.
How do you get in? Do you take an entrance exam and you just pay a whole lot of money to get in?
I'd like to say the second one, but no, unfortunately. There are entrance exams, and those entrance exams really, they start with basically school readiness tests for little kids, for the 4 or 5-year-olds. In the upper school, we'll take SATs and PSATs, but also there's an entrance exam that we take. What is the entrance exam for? Is it not because we just take the absolute brightest and things like that? Not at all. It's part of its placement, and part of it, more than anything, is we want to make sure that we don't put a student in over their head or start putting them in classes that they aren't going to be successful in or don't have a hope of being successful in, because what we want to do is avoid turning the student off education. So it's really an analysis. We also look at their past record and the scores that they have and the grades and teacher recommendations and things like that. Yes, sir?
What does it cost?
The primary school costs about, it starts about $7,000, which is a little bit more, about what daycare costs now for 4 or 5-year-olds, to about $17 at the upper end. 17, just to put it in perspective, schools up in Richmond, like Richmond Collegiate, they charge around $24. Norfolk Academy charges $23.5. So we're
A bargain.
we're much lower than they are. Now, still it's $17,000, and our competition, our real competition, is the public schools, and they're free. We do offer financial aid of over $1 million a year, and that's based on need. We ask the parents to figure out or to fill out a parent financial statement. It's sort of like the FAFSA, and the college level, a little bit less complicated, and that goes off to the great computer in New Jersey or wherever, and it comes back with what's called a determination of parental contribution. In other words, how much the computer thinks that you could afford to pay, and then we work with that number and try to come up with a real number for you. So about a third of the kids receive some sort of financial aid, and that ranges up to, in total package is $1 million. Yes, sir?
What is your endowment?
Our endowment's small. We're about $3.2 million. It took a whack during the recession, of course, and it's building back up, but very conservatively. Yes?
How are your teachers compensated compared to the public school?
I'm glad you asked that. I did a study last year looking at James City County, City of Williamsburg, York, Newport News, Hampton, Gloucester, and Poquoson, those 6. And I benchmarked our teachers against what they would be making based on degrees and years' experiences. We came out right in the middle of the pack. Williamsburg and James City County are the highest. York's just behind them. Then it's us, Newport News, Hampton, Poquoson, Gloucester, in that area. So we're within spitting distance. We have had no problem luring great teachers from other school districts. When we have an opening, we do national searches for every opening. Sometimes we'll hire locally, and when we do, it's usually poaching them from other school systems. But, yes, sir?
What about entry and longevity? Do most of your students come in the primary grades and go right on through, or do you get a bunch that come in at different stages?
Yes and yes. The kids who come in tend to stay. We have very low attrition based on national comparisons to other schools, but we do have several entry years where a class size will get larger. In the lower school, you look at class grade size, 2 sections of 15 will give you 30 students. By middle school, you're up to 45 at the early age in 5th and 6th grade, and then 7th and 8th grade, that will go up to about 50. And then in high school, it jumps up to really 65 to 70. So we'll add sections at each of those levels. So it brings in new blood and new faces and expands it that way, and allows us to, the students who have been there a long time, not to get the feel that they're going to school with their brothers and sisters for 13 years.
Many of the independent schools and academies that were founded in Virginia in the late 50s were really founded in response to the massive resistance movement in Virginia. Was that the case with the HRA?
I think I wasn't there. I don't know for sure. if you look at the dates, probably. Late 50s, early 60s, probably. We are certainly non-discriminatory right now. Our population is probably about 25% to 30% minority. And that is, not only Black Americans and Asian Americans and Cubans and Colombians and all sorts of
Even
people.
Colombians?
Even Colombians, yeah. As a matter of fact, we have two very good Colombian families. Yes, sir.
Are you making use of the internet for classes?
Oh gosh, yeah. Every the school, the entire school is Wi-Fi connected. Every classroom has a projector that's hooked up to the internet and the teacher's computer, and then every student from third grade until senior year, starting next year, will have an iPad. Will carry an iPad and work with them.
But are you using classes that are available?
Oh, online classes. We are starting that next year. We have two classes that will be taken online. One is an actual programming class, and the other one is a Chinese language class through Middlebury College. So, yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys know that state of Virginia, beginning this year in the 9th grade, graduation requirement in public schools is that all students who started the school year in this year's 9th grade, a graduation requirement is that they take at least one course online between now and then. So, the MOOCs, the massive online courses and things like that are going to become much more popular. And the state of Virginia has done a really good job with their online offerings. It's just that they're hard to get in and they're a little bit cumbersome right now. But, yeah. Yes, sir.
Do you teach any of the classical languages?
We teach Latin. Yes. Our subjects right now are Latin, are Spanish, French, Latin, and Chinese next year.
Do you have to dismiss many students? And if so, for what reasons?
In my 4 years here, we have had to let go one student for social reasons. A couple kids for academic reasons. They just either couldn't do the work or chose not to do the work and packed it in. But that's it. I can only think of one kid who we had to dismiss for disciplinary reasons, and actually he came back 2 years later after making a big turnaround in his life. So really pleased with that.
One last question.
It's funny because I'm looking at your website and I saw the 4-way test, and then you added a 5th one, and that is have fun. And I'm thinking that my job, I have fun every day, most every day, and the days that I don't have fun are probably the ones where I'm the most effective and I do the most good because I'm dealing with a problem, and it usually means that some kid's hurt in some way. Yeah, thank you for asking that question. It's a good question. We do have an honor code at the school, and the honor code is really well embraced by everyone. There's no locks on any lockers. We have iPads and phones and cameras that sit on the bench or on the floor, and I'll pick them up off the floor because I don't want someone stepping on them. But the kids take the honor code very, very seriously, and they pledge on every test, just like the UVA or the VMI. Question back?
One last question,
I
Jeff?
think you hit it. You're having fun, and that's what's important.
Yeah, and our kids give back. Last year, our upper school alone gave more than 10,000 hours of community service. Senior class did over 5,000 hours just by themselves. It is a requirement for graduation. So we do try to, service above self is part of our mottos too. And honor, respect, and responsibility are 3 of the things that we take very, very seriously. I'd love to talk more. I could talk more about us. I could talk more about my great colleagues in the public school. The only thing that ever worries me about coming to one of these things is that it may be seen that I'm promoting us over the public school system. I have the utmost respect for my public school colleagues. I just know that their mandate is so huge, and they're so, believe it or not, underfunded. When you look at, they have to service every student from the most severely learning disabled to that top 1/4 of 1%, and those resources are spread so thin. So please never think that we are partners with our public school. We're just another great academic or educational alternative.
Well, let's give Mr. Mertz a round of applause. Thank you for joining us. We have a tradition here in our club where, as our speaker, you are presented with this lovely certificate. I'm sure you will want to hang on your wall in your office.
Yes.
And it's particularly fitting. What we do is we have a book, and we present it to the Williamsburg Regional Library for
Wonderful.
the Children's Library. So this will be put in the library with your name in it.
Tremendous.
Thank you. As a thank you.
Thank you all very much.
And you get your picture taken.
Butterfly said it. Thank you, one more.